Welcome back, everyone, to this Patreon first edition of Across the Bifrost. I'm your host, Dr. Norbert, coming to you from still on the dark side of the moon, actually. And with me today to talk a little bit about how to actually start playing Inhumans is one of our London Meta team members who's been putting a heck of a lot of time into trying to work out the new Inhumans thing, and so has a lot of interesting points to make on his journey as he started and gotten to a level of proficiency now. So with me today is Andrea Civiera. Did I do it right? No.
Close enough, Norbert. Hi. Absolute pleasure to be here, coming in from the floating city of Attilan.
I threw in a little Italian accent flair, though. I mean, give me some credit for that.
No, absolutely. It's Andrea Civiera. I guess a lot of the people online know me as Crimson Bear.
Yes.
That's my tag on Discord and on my WordPress, where I do occasionally post some musings and thoughts on MCP and Inhumans in general. They're my ongoing favorite faction, have been since I started playing a year ago.
Amazing. Okay, I want to hear about that. Before I forget, though, tell people what is your blog's address.
Absolutely. It is crimsonbear.blog. Nice and simple, nice and easy.
Is that really it? Oh, okay, cool. No WordPress thing. All right, brilliant.
No,
They've changed things.
Yeah, you get to buy your actual own custom domain these days, and I thought it'd be nice and easy just to do that, and no advertising, just...
Yeah, cool. I want to also, before we go forward, really, first of all, acknowledge some technical support we got from the Cables Conquests team today for this recording. So if you like battle reports and you haven't heard about their podcast, look up Cables Conquests, where they do a really nice set of battle reports on a fairly regular basis. And you can find that at any place where you get your podcasts from. So thanks, guys. Okay, Andrea, tell us a little bit about this. Why are you so hype on Inhumans in general? It sounds like you were hype on them even before Marvel Crisis Protocol.
So when I got into my Marvel Crisis Protocol, I was quite overwhelmed by all the factions, and I got a lot of nostalgia for a lot of them. But as I got familiar with the game, the thing I found about Inhumans is they have this wonderful turn one, almost like chess play, where you can create these really interesting openings that other factions don't have access to. The leadership of Black Bolt allows you to really manipulate the state of play turn one. And you can aggressively go after objectives. You can aggressively go after characters. It really is just this big strategic potential, and that became very attractive to me. Like, I had read some Inhuman comics in the past and was aware of them. I'd seen the TV show back in the day, which was entertaining, we'll say.
I saw that show. I forced myself to watch that show because of how horrible it was. God,
it was an interesting adaptation.
Yeah. Oof. Crazy. So you weren't into them like big until the game, until Marvel's Crisis Protocol. Is that right?
Yeah, I'd say that I wasn't like a big fan of them until I got a few months into the game and got a chance to like see what they could do and understand what they were capable of.
Yeah. Okay, so you've put a lot of effort into them since they came out, but the their renaissance really happened with these latest releases that came out not too long ago.
Yeah, I'd say in the last year, there's been two really important events for the Inhumans. The first one was the Tactics cards update last year, where a lot of the existing restricted cards were removed, as were a number of unaffiliated ones. Without eyes on the prize, the midline became a much more dangerous place to be. And Inhumans have a lot of ways to pressure and punish that midline. So that was a really good position. And now with the new Inhumans box coming out at the same time that the extracts and crises have updated, has really given them a lot of power and a lot of flexibility.
So tell me then what you think let's just, this show is going to be centered around the latter part of your journey. Well, after the meta changes have happened to kind of favor them, plus the new characters that came out. Okay. What would you say though, ahead of all that happening, what did you struggle with when playing them?
when I first started playing Inhumans, the first big obstacle is learning positioning. Before we had the new box come out, we only had Black Bolt as our leader. His leadership can pass power between characters, which is exceptionally powerful, but it's within range free. So at the setup, you need to make sure like your models are within range free of each other, and as your turns unfold, you can only really pass that power where you've got your models well positioned. And then inside of that, Black Bolt's got a very powerful bodyguard that's within range 2. So again, you start to focus on making sure that your key models can keep within 2 of each other to leverage that bodyguard and protect. So like positioning was huge in the early days, like trying to learn those positionings, being able to eyeball them, being able to set them up as you unfold your strategy.
Okay. And why didn't Lockjaw solve this problem?
Lockjaw can like solve the problem turn 1 by like pushing people into position, but beyond turn 1, you then find the second obstacle of Inhuman performance, which is your turn 1 can be amazing, but unless you're in position to sustain that momentum and have a very strong turn 2, you often see just a lot of swings backwards and forwards. In turn 2, Lockjaw can often be at the far back of your roster, potentially not within range of anyone to support them, more often than not in the range of any enemies to try and put damage on them and pressure. Like beyond turn 1, he's a very passive model.
Yeah, okay.
So he can solve your turn 1 problems, but then he does not proactively help your turn 2 and turn 3 problems. A lot of the time, you have to think very hard about where you place him.
Yeah. Okay. So you would say that it was positioning was the big issue, both in terms of making sure the leadership paid off, but also to put your people into position to do stuff where they need to do.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. And so then tell us then what you said things changed in the meta and things changed with characters. You want us to talk about the meta changes first? Or are they, are they hard to separate? You want to do it all together?
I think it's probably good to talk about the change in like the crises and extracts.
Okay.
Because that really sort of came in before we got the characters due to the delays with the shipping, etc.
Right.
So yeah, with the change of the meta, we lost E format for secures. And I'd say Inhumans potentially had a very strong E setup because everything around Black Bolt says group up together, like, you know, cover each other. When he flips over, he has this ridiculously powerful beam attack.
Right.
That can decimate a team if they're clumped up. So losing that, we had to start thinking more about how we play the wider game. Like Black Bolt can't be everywhere. Your team all can't be bunched up anymore, so power doesn't move as freely.
Right.
You sort of break down into smaller groups, and they have to be very self-sufficient groups that have a purpose. What you would often find is mobility could be problematic.
Yeah.
There's not very, outside of Lockjaw, there is not much in the way of large movement. Like that's a range 3 placement. Medusa has a range 2, a range 1 place, which can be used within range 2 of a character. There's like small movements, but being able to like move, say, from one corner of a D to another can be quite difficult. Moving across the board from one side of Infinity to another is very hard for the team to manage.
Right. Now, you did have things like Beast and Quicksilver, though, and they tend to move around quite readily. Is the problem that they're more support pieces?
They're very functional pieces, but unless they have teammates with them to support, they can be very isolated and very vulnerable. Like Beast is best when he's like moving on to a point to throw people off, then maybe set up a die for the rest of your team. Quicksilver's best when he runs off, steals something quickly, then retreats into your team.
Yep.
If you need them to move off onto flank by themselves to become isolated and vulnerable, a lot of Inhumans have very average health and very average defenses, with a reroll adding that little bit of resilience, but not necessarily enough to stand up against like Midnight Sun's pressure or Cabal pressure.
Yeah. Okay. Got it. Okay, and so so the crises change around, but also at the same time, I think you mentioned that along with E shapes going away, which is problematic for you, safe grabs though have largely gone away. There are definitely some still in the game, but largely gone away. So that to your advantage then, because you can punish them for being on the front and the midline.
Yeah, I feel Inhumans have a very strong midline pressure play. Turn 1, you can get power onto any character with Black Bolt, which really means that all your charges, which a lot of factions have to wait until turn 2 to get sufficient power to initiate, you can initiate turn 1. So all of a sudden, characters like your Mighty Fours, your 4 Odinsons, your Shang-Chis, they all have a way to attack the midline immediately, which is a lot of pressure. Characters like Medusa can move into place to do a single attack on the midline, and they have the ability to pull people into the team with their omnidirectional push trigger, which Ms. Marvel has as well. She has a range 4 physical attack that's on a trigger, can push a character towards you. So you have ways to like pull people off the midline into your team, and ways to charge onto the midline and attack. And also with Lockjaw, you can literally just push 2 characters up into perfect position to double tap. So there's like a lot of strong aggression into the midline.
Yeah. Okay. And then the other half of the kind of resurgence of Inhumans has been the addition of new characters, and I think it's in particular Karnak and Gorgon. Is that right?
Absolutely. The new characters that have come in, I feel, just bring a couple of tools, support pieces that were, I'm not even sure if they were desperately missing, but with them the quality of life is massively enhanced. Like where before, sorry.
Yeah, no, it's okay. I mean, you say that, and I feel differently. I feel like they are actually very functional. Gorgon and Karnak are particularly functional characters, and both 3 threat. And the 3 threats that Inhumans had before this were a little lackluster comparatively. So that's one thing. And then the second thing is that whereas Karnak, you could say, is similar to other types of Inhumans in that he doesn't have a lot of mobility, although he's quite strong. And not saying he's bad, just that's one of his problems. Gorgon's got that charge, which is easy to turn on. Yeah.
So, I mean, yeah, you've got those. I guess if you look at Gorgon first, he brings a charge, which was a strategy that a lot of aggressive Inhumans like to play, is to get that turn 1 charge into the midline. But not just that, from a control perspective, like one of the setups I would have a lot of issue with is like Hulks and other sort of big, dangerous size 4 characters that can do a lot of damage. And Gorgon brings what is an amazing spender for a free threat, 4 power, 8 dice, froze, can trigger a stagger. All of a sudden you have this piece that can actually like fend off a size 4 character better than, say, like Ms. Marvel, who has like 5 dice attacks and gets none of her bonus rerolls into them. And not just that, from a control perspective, he brings conditions that we didn't really have access to before. He has shock on his beam as a trigger. He has stun on his builder as a trigger. And we just don't have that anywhere else in the faction. So all of a sudden, this single piece is like bringing control, bringing aggression, and he's like very well statted for his free threat.
Yeah, I totally agree. Yeah, he's lovely. He just does all kinds of different things. Still can go down pretty easily.
He does.
And I think you could say that for a few of these characters. Karnak, though, seems to be the exception, at least in my experience so far. Provided he's not being attacked at range, he's fantastic at holding his own. Yeah.
Like, the thing I love most about Karnak is his meditate. So turn 1, he can generate 2 extra powers in action. And where before that turn 1 sort of like chess strategy for Inhumans, you had maybe 6 or 7 power between all your characters that you could move around to grab extracts, turn on powers. Now you're looking at 8 or 9 power, if you have him included. Before, you would maybe bring Lockjaw to generate that extra power. But Karnak brings that extra power, but brings different tools. He's very defensible if people come into him. His weakness tokens mean he's very hard to double tap.
Yep.
Also, if you do attack him and don't put him down, he has a very, very powerful attack back if you're within range 2 or 3 of him.
Yeah, you're talking about his spender now, right?
Yeah, like even just his builder with a weakness token is 8 dice, which is exceptional.
Sure. Yeah,
and then if you're in range 3 and he has the power, his spender is I need to remind myself how many dice it is.
It's
7 base, so it's 10 dice with a weakness token.
Yeah, and counts skulls on both sides of the rolls. Which is even better than Loki 2's ability, which is saying something.
Yeah. So like he brought that extra power, which I feel helps more strategies early game. And he just is like this nice, tough model that people are not incentivized to attack up close and personal. Obviously, like other martial artists, like if you just sit at range 3 or 4 and snipe him, there's not a lot he can do about that with his lack of mobility.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay, let's talk about the slew of new tactics cards that they got as well. Which do you think have really dramatically changed the affiliation?
I think Great Refuge is the most talked about card right now. Mm-hmm. I see it in almost every single roster for Inhumans that's being made just now. This card allows your leader to spend 2 power multiple times to then place a character who's an Inhuman who doesn't have an extract within 3.
Right, so, which including himself, which is the big,
including himself,
the biggest part of that card. Yeah.
Yeah. So turn 1, you now have this ability with Black Bolt, who starts with 2 power, to just move a model up range 3. Mm-hmm. Which you could do with Lockjaw, but Lockjaw had to do that as an action, which is very telegraphed. Mm-hmm. You can just do this at the start of your activation.
Right.
It's a lot more surprising. It's a lot more flexible. And not just that, one of the classic, I'd say, foils of Inhumans was displacement. If your opponent could, say, throw Black Bolt away from the rest of the team and space them out, again, people become quite isolated, quite vulnerable. And Black Bolt wouldn't be able to, say, counterattack and punish, but being able to use the Great Refuge mid or late game to reposition your team and bring people back into play, like really adds a lot of momentum. Like I think it matches up against, say, like Web Warriors, where there's a lot of displacement and where it's very hard to keep a cohesive team structure. You've got this tool to bring everything back together for that one big play.
So do you find yourself using Great Refuge mostly in like a turn 1 thing to try to get early double taps off, or do you hold it? Do you typically hold it longer and cause havoc in mid to late game?
It really depends on the matchup. I have to look at what my opponent's doing. I have to look at where the victory points are. Do I need it? Turn 1 to establish a victory point lead, then maybe I'll commit it. If not, if I don't need it to do that, then it's a very strong tool to work against like the wide plethora of like displacement, whether it's forced advances, throws, pushes. Like a lot of teams have something that can get you out of position.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Do you ever, you have Hulk in this like test roster here that you've won an event with. Do you ever use, does he still have that card? Is it legal? The one where he could throw people 5?
Gamma Launch?
Yeah, Gamma Launch.
I've never used Gamma Launch. Although I do like talk about throwing like big dangerous characters up the board. I think other people in the local meta like using it on like Cosmic Ghost Riders and similar.
Mm-hmm. But not, you haven't thought about throwing Black Bolt with Gamma Launch.
I think Black Bolt up the board range 5 is probably a bit too far. Like he only has 6 health.
Yeah, fair enough.
But to sort of point out the power of Great Refuge, in one game against Pat, which was a great game, because of the way terrain was positioned, he couldn't just pick up his home hammer easily. So he focused more on pressuring the side hammers in the first turn. Mm-hmm. So I was able to Great Refuge, Black Bolt, and then double move and grab his home hammer.
Yeah, right. Got it.
And because of the way the terrain was, it was very difficult for him to then position and counterattack.
Gotcha.
It really helped throw him off turn one. Like, it was a huge gamble, and it left him very vulnerable.
Yeah.
But it was like it gave me the victory points I needed to try and push the game in my direction.
Right. Because would you say Inhumans, at least the current thinking right now, is they're the kind of faction that wants to get ahead very early on points, and then after that just try to hold on to the win. Is that correct?
Yeah. Just now, because of the wide extracts and the ability to play free high-scoring extracts that are all civilians that fuel your Terrigenesis, scoring out in 3 turns is fairly viable.
Gotcha.
Turn 1, you can easily score 5 or 6 points. Then if turn 2 and 3, if you can hold on to at least 4 points each turn, Terrigenesis will get you to 16 victory points on the 3rd turn.
Yeah.
Or at the start of the 4th.
But is this, I know it's possible, and I think that's what the hype is, but is this your typical game plan? Is this how they play?
It's certainly what my list aspires to. Like, before, people had used like Doc Voodoo in Inhuman teams. Like, I think I remember seeing Jim using it in one of the TTS leagues really well, like on Senators. And now that Karnak's come out and has that extra turn 1 power, you can push that into Voodoo, which means Voodoo has a lot more potential power to play with turn 1. So like double move and then possessing even like a 4-threat character and grabbing their extract is viable, which it maybe wasn't before unless you were like using Lockjaw and bunching your team up a lot more.
Yeah. I found you have to make a critical decision at the beginning of your game about whether you want to give Voodoo all the power to do something like that. Well, because my temptation is constantly to give Quicksilver the power instead, so he can do a dive and steal somebody else's extract.
Yeah.
And possibly, if I have enough power on the table to get Gorgon's charge going, but you can't do both if you have Voodoo in that mix.
Yeah, that's 5 power right there that you've already talked about for the charge and for the dive. And that leaves you maybe 3 power, and you'll probably have at least 1 or 2 more extracts to pick up.
Yeah, exactly.
And if you're on pay to flips, then it's completely out of the question.
Right. So how do you decide? Because this is a struggle I've had. Now, I just finished playing 7 games of them in a tournament in Sweden, in Malmo, Sweden. Great tournament. Had a lovely time. And, it was trial by fire, but I got a lot of experience into it. And it was difficult for me to decide whether to take Voodoo and give him, or if I'm taking both Voodoo and Quicksilver, giving him the power, Quicksilver the power. And I tended to lean towards Quicksilver because that was an obvious thing to do that you could only do right at the beginning of the game. Whereas Voodoo, I figure he can gather up power and be stealing stuff mid-game.
Yeah. So if you've got one of the extracts where your opponent has back points that you can steal Quicksilver, that's always my go-to. Okay. And when I'm doing my turn 0 and planning out my roster, I will be thinking about what my turn 1 needs to be and how much power I have to do that and what I can and cannot put online. And let's say if we're on pay to flips with that setup, then Voodoo might be out of the question, or maybe Voodoo is something that I charge up for turn 2 or turn 3. Because I need to make sure I've flipped the pay to flips to get my points. I need to make sure I've done my dive and grabbed my own extracts to try and get the point advantage. And that very rarely leaves extra power for a charge or a focused Voodoo grab or even a Great Refuge punish.
So I find that interesting because I don't think I'd ever consider taking Voodoo on a pay to flip scenario, because even though the brother Daniel doesn't affect his base stats, and those are the ones that you need to use for the pay to flips, either the energy or physical defense. And so unless they had a big kaiju that might take an extract and never give it back to me, and so therefore Voodoo is my only chance, that might be the only time I would consider having him in on pay to flip scenario, but normally I wouldn't because of his really poor way of flipping things.
He only has difficulties on Meteors and on Madman, on Guardians and on Emkran. Oh, right. Guardians is a fixed 3 dice, and Emkran is a single dice. Yeah. So he's not as punished on them, And you could argue that if he rolls a skull, he generates more power. But then you might also think Beast is a cheaper and better choice that has the same economy on pay to flips.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, you're absolutely right. I think there's games where you don't just bring Doc Voodoo. I'm also starting to feel that against very focused attrition teams, that he might not be the most viable choice, just because a lot of your team are vulnerable. They're average health, average defenses, like a focused Cabal or Guardians attack with some rerolls, or some, like, you know, the Red Skull free leadership exploding a skull can really do a lot of damage. I don't know if you find it, but like Karnak, the one thing that stops him having a very powerful like clapback is that he might just get one shot and take 5 damage in a single hit.
He's only 5 on both sides, so it's a real problem.
So I'm starting to think that in certain matchups that we might need to push towards something more resilient. Looking at characters like Beta Ray Bill. Just now I'm actually, after talking to our fellow MCP player Angus, who's a big fan of Frankenstein, I'm trialing some Frankenstein. Because like Shang-Chi, he can like attack the midline turn 1 with a charge. That does 6 dice attack. But then he has a heal and he has 7 health. So, and he also has effectively like a bodyguard card.
Sure.
So I'm thinking, like, in those games against those really aggressive attrition teams, maybe instead of sort of like doubling down on trying to take all the extracts and hold on to them, pushing more towards a defensive team that can defend those extracts better.
Yeah. So you're getting at the meat of my lessons from Malmo, Andrea. I certainly, the first few games didn't get turn 0 right, and so I had suboptimal extract gathering on turn 1. Okay, but I got much better at it as I went along, and certainly on Sunday, the second day, I was actually pretty proficient at it. I mean, to a degree. I'm sure I wasn't a master, but what I found, how I kept losing, is I was up against quite heavy attrition teams. Eventually, they would come to my little turtle. And then just blow me up. I just died. And that was basically how I lost. We had another prominent player at the tournament, and at least on Saturday, 2 of his games were getting literally tabled. So, Black Bolt has good defense stats. He's got a bodyguard, but there's only so much he's going to be able to soak up. And then, like, Karnak would get one-shotted. Gorgon even gets one-shotted, remarkably. So, what are your thoughts about this experience that I've had?
Like, I think it's a very relatable experience.
Okay, good.
At our Crisis at the Cafe 40, I managed to go 4-0 with this list. I was quite fortunate that against the attrition rosters that I was able to funnel them to parts of the board where they couldn't get double attacks on my team. My team could escape them in the last turn and just score out by the skin of my teeth.
Right.
But then on the second day, we went to another tournament where I lost one match to Servants of Apocalypse, piloted by Pat, an amazing player, someone I struggle against because he knows every out, he knows every option, he will always play things perfect.
He knows your army better than you know.
But then I also lost a match against Cabal where I realised, I'd picked a very extract-heavy team into Senators, and all of a sudden I realised that Voodoo was not getting me any value because he just wasn't picking the Senators up, he was just diving me. I realised that I'd picked up a Senator with Black Bolt, so Ultron and Red Skull just literally marched him and teleported him down to the bottom of the board. And holding an extract, I can't Great Refuge back in.
Exactly.
So I realised that I had no defence, and I actually really cornered myself and put myself in a position where I couldn't score points and couldn't get back in the game. And I think getting that right roster on the table at the start, and then really being aware of where your danger points are and being able to punch back at them so that they have to pay to come into you.
So that's the thing. I found that they're very all of them, apart from Gorgon, are very susceptible to displacement. And Yeah, and like I learned that you can't Black Bolt really shouldn't be picking up any extracts until maybe late game. Because he needs to motor around, and and oftentimes he'll be, if he's not motoring around because you've burnt a Great Refuge already or gotten teleported already by Lockjaw. If he's holding the extract, then people will put him down, and then he loses the extract anyway.
Yeah.
And he doesn't have much dice fixing either, I found. So like even on his injured side, when like, woohoo, I'll get a whisper off, and it's so exciting, he still could just fluff it.
Yeah, I'm seeing Inhuman Royal Families being played by a lot of people who need that turn where Black Bolt and maybe sort of someone else like Karnak or Gorgon have that big attack that goes off.
Yeah. So for the listeners, that's a card where you pay, I think 2 power, and then you can choose one attack or one defense that round on that character, and they get to reroll any, which is really great, actually.
Yeah.
And I take it. I've taken that card, and I've taken Great Refuge. I think always take those two.
And like I appreciate that now more than I used to, because I realize, especially when you're playing defensive like that, having that turn where you can daze a critical target, guaranteed, or as close to guaranteed as the team can muster, is really important for like reducing the pressure on your team.
Right.
So like, you've got dice fixing there, but I'm also torn between the fact that against certain aggressive rosters, I potentially want more defensive uses out of a card like that, or maybe I want to start looking at taking active bodyguard cards, like Royal Guardians, or with Frankenstein, the monstrous.
Yeah. So Royal
bodyguard.
Guardians it's similar to Heroes for Hire that Gorgon and Karnak, for that matter, can use, but it's typically Gorgon, where he pays 3 power and then gets teleported within 1. He takes the attack, and then in return, if he's still around, you get a stun and shock.
Correct.
Yeah.
And if Karnak does it, you get a weakness token.
Yeah.
If he survives.
Right. So,
surviving's quite hard, though. I think you'll agree when you've got 5 or 6 health.
Yeah. Yeah, so Karnak, I wouldn't do it with. Sometimes, maybe. I mean, he does get his martial artist at that point, but like if it's a mystic attack, then no. And Gorgon is good against physical defense, but other than that, he's just ordinary on the. They have rerolls. Let's not discount the Inhuman reroll, but I don't know. Defense in this game is always kind of weak anyway by design, and so it doesn't help that terribly much. So you're saying that the best defense is a good offense?
That's where I'm starting to head to, is thinking about those matchups and what will give me the edge. It probably comes down to I'm also maybe not as finessed an extract player as other players of this game. Like, I don't know if you feel the same. Like, you'll see great players like Joe doing things of X-Men that I try to do but just can't. I can't survive those punches. I can't outplay those attrition teams. And I'm feeling the same with Inhumans in some ways, that if my formation folds or if I make some maneuver errors, that my opponent can really pressure me and force me into a position where I'm no longer scoring more than them. Yeah. And I need a way to fight back from that.
Yep. Yeah, I lost to 2 Guardians players. I lost to an Asgard player. I lost to Steve 1 Avengers player. And lastly, a Defenders Doctor Strange player. And that build was a very aggressive build. What was the other? He had 2 characters, Doctor Strange. Oh, and holy moly, it was another big kaiju that's on their team. That was a real problem for me. Anyway, it'll come to me. There was just no chance. They could out attrition me, and also have a bit more maneuverability than I did. And so even though again, like on Sunday, I had all the extracts the way I was supposed to, 1 more than them, maybe 2, and then turtled up or tried to stay away, like pivoted around the table if it was a diamond-shaped thing, but eventually they would get to me. And then it was a matter of dice, and there's only so much dice picking that one Inhumans roll can do, or like a recal. I see that you don't have recal on this list.
I do.
Oh, there it is, right in the middle.
Right in the middle.
Yeah, yeah. I didn't have that, and I regretted it. I definitely feel like I needed it, especially when I was doing whispers, and I desperately needed that whisper to do something, and I literally got 2 hits out of the 10 with the rerolls, and so
Yeah, man. I almost never use it offensively. For me, it's a very defensive card.
Yeah, sure.
When I'm trying to, I guess, be greedy and avoid a daze.
Yeah.
But I absolutely appreciate that if you need to put someone down and dice do what dice do, that it's a great way to take advantage of that.
Yeah. Yeah, it was terrible. So what other cards then? We talked about Great Refuge. We talked about Inhuman Royal Family, which is the reroll one. Royal Guardians is the bodyguard card. I think the only big one then that people still like to take that's from the new pack is Terrigenesis.
Terrigenesis is not from the new pack.
Oh, wow.
It came out. Yeah, it came out with. It's always been there. I think we struggled a little bit to have viable civilian strategies because
there seem to be more civilians in the Crisis pack now than before. Is that right?
There's 4. There's 4 civilian extracts. We've gained unexpected guests. We've kept Skrulls, we've kept Senators, and we've kept Spider Infected. But I think a lot of older strategies were more attrition-based. So you'd bring Terrigenesis and hope that your opponent played civilians. You weren't proactively playing them yourself as much.
Yeah. I remember the other kaiju that guy had. It was Namor. So between Doctor Strange and Namor being together all the time, Strange is healing him, giving him extra dice damage. It was, and then he staggers. He kept staggering Black Bolt. It was awful.
Black Bolt is very susceptible to stagger because obviously he is the biggest damage output in the team. That 6 dice energy attack with a pierce is often just huge, and the Master Punch can really sort of devastate when you're bowling a size 4 into the rest of its team.
Yeah. So, all right, but Terrigenesis, I got it off twice, actually, over the course of the weekend, which is pretty cool. But basically, you have to wound somebody and get them down to maybe 1 or 2 hit points that's holding an extract. That was my play anyway. And then I would play the card and hope for it to happen. I
try to get them to 1, but I'll take 2 if I'm desperate.
Yeah.
Dice being dice, I'm always scared that it's going to fluff.
Yeah, so for people at home, you roll 4 dice. You pay 3 power, I think it is. You roll 4 dice, and you're looking for successes, so crits, wilds, and hits, and they take a damage for each one. And provided you either daze or KO the character with that card's damage output, then you automatically get 2 VP straight away. And presumably, if you're lucky, you have a power still on your character, and then you can pick up the extract that opponent just dropped.
Or if you're really lucky, you're at 14 or 15 VPs when you play it.
Yeah,
sure. Cross 16 and win immediately.
Yeah, well, that's great. But I said I basically I would always just keep my eyes open for when somebody had an extract with 1 or 2 hit points and go for it straight away. I mean, because it's quite a bit of setup to make that card pay off. Like, you're not going to do it against somebody who's got 4 hit points and hope for 4 successes, right?
No, I wouldn't. I mean, you'd have to be really desperate and really lucky.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, it happens.
It happens. It does happen. All right. And then you have also Attilan Rising as one of your cards. Tell us about that one.
Yeah, Attilan Rising is a card that I've always loved. So Attilan Rising can be played during your activation, and every Inhuman gains 1 power for every injured Inhuman in your team. So I would save that for when Black Bolt flips. This is when I was playing when you're playing very aggressive. It's often quite easy to daze Black Bolt, turn 2 or 3 with some well-placed bodyguards.
Yep.
And moving him up the board as aggressively as possible. And then the thing is, when he flips, he has access to Whisper, which costs 6 power.
Yep.
And ideally, you want to line up the most egregious Whisper you can, and the best way to do that is with a Master Punch, which costs another 3 power.
Yep.
So you ideally want Black Bolt on 9 power, which is not easier guaranteed. So Attilan Rising, after he's dazed and flipped, he gets guaranteed 1 extra power, which is often quite important. And if there's any other dazed characters in your team, he gains more, and the rest of your team gains the power as well. So it really just floods the team with some power, which you can then start to move between them.
Yeah. So do you? I find I've been bodyguarding with him so much when he flips that he never is at a lot of power on the backside.
Are you also paying for his defense increase?
Yes. Yeah.
That's something I have to be careful about, is thinking about how much power he has, and if I spend for his defenses and I take no damage, is he now out of play because he doesn't have enough power to be effective?
Yeah.
Or if he takes enough damage to flip, can he have an effective turn if he's near to dazing? So I only try and raise the defenses when I've got an excess of power, or when taking damage would give me an excess of power. Otherwise, I'm quite happy just to roll 4s and freeze. Because I really want him to flip with as much power as possible.
Yeah.
Like, if you do bring Attilan, and you manage to like flip him and get him to like 10 power. Let's say you flip him and he's on like 8 or 9 power. You can move one onto him. You can then do your first whisper, and then you can then Attilan to gain more power back and go for a second whisper.
Yeah.
It is doable. Like, it does, that card can open up a lot of big tricks.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I can see that, because getting 2 whispers off that sounds very hard to do with 6 power each.
Yeah, I mean, ideally, it just really helps set up that Master Punch whisper. And that Master Punch really helps like throw someone hopefully into the right position to catch 3 or 4 people.
Yeah,
and also you get to place off it. So rather than just walking and whispering, which is like a very classic move for me,
Master Punch instead. Yeah,
that card. And again, so that's very much more like if I'm playing attrition and if I want to really leverage Black Bolt as much as possible into my enemy. Attilan Rising is a big choice. The big issue is, like, it used to be an auto take before we got the new box, but with all the great cards in the new box, it's actually very hard to get it into my 5 these days.
Yeah. What would you say is the typical 5?
If we're on civilians, absolutely Terrigenesis. Always the Great Refuge. Brace and Sacrifice are often just no-brainers. I would say against certain rosters, we only have like maybe 1 throw, like against, say, X-Men, or against certain other teams where I'm feeling brave, I won't take Brace.
Sassy.
Yeah.
You're feeling sassy.
Yeah, I mean, like, if you know, because...
How bad can a throw be? I could do it. I can manage
this. How about instead I get all that power to do that like really big Master Punch whisper instead, or have Royal Guardians to like switch up the board. Like, I don't always take Brace if I can find a way around it, because...
Yeah, but you like Sacrifice.
Yeah, Sacrifice I feel is quite important. Black Bolt can't always be in the middle of the fray. And if you're about to lose an extract carrier... like, just if you can sacrifice that onto anyone else.
Yeah, that's what I tended to do.
In a clutch moment.
Oftentimes to Karnak, if he was within 2 of the attacker, believe it or not.
And then put a weakness token on them.
Yeah, exactly. So it works out, but again, he's only got 5 hit points. So you have to weigh that in. And certainly I wouldn't do it if he was, unless I was desperate. I wouldn't do it if they were outside of 2.
Yeah.
So.
But for the most part, given the teams that are currently prevalent, Brace and Sacrifice... and Great Refuge just auto-includes. Terrigenesis is an auto-include if it's on civilians. If it's on assets, I will normally tend towards, can I borrow that instead?
Yeah, sure.
I generally find the turn 1 steal with Quicksilver, with can I borrow that, fairly reliable.
Really?
I don't know if you've done it yourself. You do the usual thing of like placing him in like the middle or on a flank if you know you're not going to grab the extract on that flank. And then you move 2 power onto him like you normally would. He uses the first 2 power to speedster up. He should now be within range 3. He can now attack twice.
Right.
And if one of those attacks does at least 1 damage, he then has the power to steal.
Yeah, got it. Yeah, for sure.
It doesn't always work, but I've generally found it fairly reliable that the kind of people who do midline grabs can be quite susceptible to
And then typically you'll never see that asset again because he just runs away.
Yeah, then turn 2, the first thing you do is sprint towards Black Bolt.
Yeah, I did that, and then the Guardians would blow him up.
Yeah.
Like, okay. Anyway, moving on from that. Talk me about crisis choices, because I did learn. I was advised on how to put my roster together, and the debate on the secures was either Deadline to Destruction or Infinity Formula. Infinity Formula is the B map. Deadline Destruction is a better shape. It's a narrow D, but people can interact with the secures and make your extract carriers take 1 damage, which presumably you're going to have a lot of, because that's the Inhuman game plan these days, is to be carrying a lot of extracts. I went with, we were able to change rosters unexpectedly, between the 2 days. The first day I tried Infinity Formula and played it twice, I believe, and it was disastrous. I hated it so bad. And so I switched to Deadline to Destruction, which I liked a lot better. And the problem with Infinity Formula is just as you expect. You would try to dominate on both sides, potentially, but even if you didn't, it was very hard to pivot, and you're spreading yourself too thin. You have to, if you're going to play it, you have to decide which lane you're going to dominate and just stick to that altogether. And if you choose wisely, then probably it will work, but oftentimes the game is dynamic enough that it'll get away from you, and then you're just out of luck. How do you feel?
So yeah, I've played Infinity, Cosmic Invasion, and Riots as my main free secures, and for some reason I always end up in Cosmic Invasion whenever I'm forced to take my secures.
Okay.
I've not had a chance to play on the other 2 for months.
Oh gosh, you should just force it in a practice game. You should just say, I want to play this.
But I feel very much the same with you about Infinity.
Yeah.
That it is giving your opponent a lot of power, and that power becomes bigger, more dangerous attacks that you're, as we've established, 5 health, 3 defense, Inhumans on average can struggle to absorb.
Yep.
So I'm currently playing around with, what is it, Sinister Syndicate one.
Scoundrels?
Scoundrels, yes. I'm playing around with Scoundrels. It's got 5 secures, so there's a lot of points.
Yep.
It gives cover, which is an extra level of defense when you've stolen your opponent's, or stolen something from the midline and are coming back. They have to get really close to be able to get through that cover. I do agree that it maybe makes you more vulnerable to teams like Criminals,
for sure.
who under Kingpin love superpowered Scoundrels.
Yeah.
And maybe even Webs. Sometimes.
So you don't like Deadline to Destruction though, as a halfway house?
I think every time it gets used against me to do a damage, it feels bad, psychologically. My opponent's
it is bad.
Constantly, and I have to at some point make a decision to drop the token.
Yeah.
And if I do that at the wrong time, effectively I'm being forced to make a decision several times around, and if I make the wrong decision, I'm likely losing a character or losing some victory points.
So I had to make that decision. It was Lady Jane into Toad holding my extract, who had 1 hit point left, and she had a tree nearby. And so she's like, all right, I'm going to interact now. She did 1 action. Actually, he survived that one, the charge, as a matter of fact. I was like, yeah, that's Toad. So he's got another action. He's got a throw, and he's now telling me he's going to interact with the thing. And I had to decide, can I drop it or do I take the final point of damage? I elected to actually drop it. And the reason is I figured this way she has to stay there to do something else to me to knock me out, because it was important to get me out of the picture. And she would have gotten the extract anyway. You know what I mean? And so it was going to be a bad situation. Like Pat always says, you in every situation, there's going to be a lot of bad options to take the least bad one. And so for me, it was just getting her stuck on that point and not doing other havoc elsewhere was more important. So I dropped it, and it worked out, actually.
That's really brave, and it's hard to make that decision and to make that decision feel you made the right decision. So I kind of avoid it because I'm already stressed enough when I'm playing my team half the time. I don't need to bring a crisis that makes it even more stressful for myself.
Yeah, I remember when we played at a smaller local tournament, and they elected not to use chess clocks, and we were like halfway through turn 2 because we were both playing really tight games. But we're halfway through turn 2 and the round time was over. And I even warned you. I was like, Andrea, we need to speed this up. And you're like, okay. But you kept saying, but these Asgardians are very hard. They're very difficult. I have to do everything perfectly. And so we ran out of time that time, which was very unusual for the London meta, actually. So there we are.
Yeah. Again, I think that was lack of familiarity with the team and just feeling the pressure from everything Asgard does.
Yeah, sure. No, I get it. But I mean, the point is there's that paralysis with these guys.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's where experience comes in. You have to sort of like know your formations, know your plays, understand turn 2, turn 3 where your team needs to be and where they're going.
Yeah.
Actually, Pat taught me that's like the big, I guess, difference maker with Inhumans is it's very easy to design an excellent turn 1.
Yeah. But
it's what you do in turn 2 and how you set that up and in turn 3 that makes the difference and is what wins you the game.
Yes, that's 100% how I lost. Well, the first 3 games of the 7 were bad turn 0s. So, okay, that's the first thing you got to master. But after that, there's still quite a lot of flexibility about what we do with all these tasty extracts that you've collected. Either combination of dice and bad decisions, or maybe just bad decisions, period, in terms of how do I cluster up? Where do I go with these people? Do I commit them to fighting? Because that's a big problem I have, is I sometimes like with the X-Men, I never knew when to actually pivot to fight a little harder rather than just trying to play keep away.
Yeah. And it's like, do you take your punches and hope to daze someone, or do you try and move out to limit the double tap attacks? And like on that, certainly one of the things that I try and investigate is when I lose, is I look really hard at what I did with Black Bolt. Like, he's the most expensive character on the field. He's the most impactful member of the roster. Mm-hmm. Like, was he engaged properly? Was he like in the middle of the board amongst my team? Was he being effective in getting 2 quality activations each round? Or was he out of position? Was he on his own? Was he not having a real impact?
Yeah.
And I think that's a huge piece in the Inhuman play style.
Okay, so let's move on to extract crises choices, because this seems like where the money is to be made.
Yeah.
You've got Scrolls, Senators, and Spider Infected. I happen to switch out Senators for... now I've forgotten what I did. But while I'm looking at
unexpected guests.
Yeah, unexpected wedding guests. Yeah, I picked that one instead of Senator, because I thought Senators would be a little too scary. It's such a high scoring scenario, and I was brand new to the faction. Literally hadn't played a single game before the tournament. I was like, I'm not going to put that kind of pressure on me, so I didn't go with Senators. So
I'm doing the same now. I've played Senators a bunch, and I don't think I'm good enough on Senators to take advantage of the opportunities it creates strongly. Mm-hmm. What I find I end up doing is like trying to create a trap in the middle, leaving a Lockjaw on the back line, where he then becomes a non-factor for the next turn. Inadvertently, I'll probably pick up a Senator with Black Bolt to maximize my scoring, and now I've just turned off Great Refuge, which was a big mistake I made against Cabal. Was just picking up a Senator turn 1 to like get the scoring rolling, and then by like turn 3, Black Bolt was like maneuvered off the board effectively, and I couldn't just Great Refuge back in. I was having to double move, and that's like a waste of a turn in a model.
Yeah, precisely. That's the worst. With Inhumans, that action economy is brutal.
So yeah, I've struggled to get the most out of Senators. So I've taken out as well for unexpected guests.
Yeah.
Again, just focus on that really cheap steal at the start.
Right.
And try and get that 3-to-1 extract advantage.
Okay. So tell us a little bit about this. So, I mean, I think for me, the idea is that like Spider Infected, there's a lot of extracts on the table. And importantly, there's 2 in the back, which, on their side. And those are the ones that you use Quicksilver to pick up. Wedding guests, I think, is the same.
Just to add to that, you can also, if pushed, use Toad to grab one as well. If he's lined up with the extract, he can double move and pick it up.
Oh, right. Okay, cool.
So, like, especially if someone's maybe if something's gone wrong and there's terrain or an issue that stops your Quicksilver from being in the right position or from grabbing, you can always use Toad as an alternative.
Okay, fair enough. But yeah, I just double checked Unexpected Wedding Guests, and it also has 2 back extracts. So there's another Quicksilver play, possibly a Toad play, like you mentioned. Yeah. So that's what is interesting about those. Anything else about them that's good? But it just seems like the basic plan was Toad picks up your home one, turn 2, Quicksilver picks up one of their back ones, and then turn 3, you pick up your other home one. Alternatively, though, and this is the key part of it, was you need to have 2 beaters standing behind your home extracts, such that if they dive, which one guy did, actually, he took Beta Ray Bill, and another guy took Lizard and dive mine. And if the beaters are not in place, you don't punish them for doing that, and then you're behind on extracts, which is blowing up your whole overall strategy.
Yeah, I've found certainly most effective for me is like having Voodoo on one, Black Bolt on the other.
Okay.
So if they come in and steal with like Lizard or Toad, Voodoo can possess them quite easily to steal it back. Alternatively, if they go into Black Bolt, you can Great Refuge up and double tap if they're not in range of the baseline. Alternatively, even Beast can just walk up, grab a power, throw them over his head.
Yeah, right.
Pass them to Black Bolt to punish.
Yeah, yep. So that's the game plan for Spider Infected and Wedding Guests. What you do after that is tricky, though. But I got the hang of the opening play, and that was quite fun, to be honest with you. But Scrolls was weirder to figure out.
Scrolls is a lot weirder because there's not an easy steal at the start. You can't just assume.
You can do. Tell me if I'm wrong. You can do the same sort of things I just mentioned, Toad or Quicksilver, and quote unquote safe steal those things. The problem is if you fail the scroll roll, then you're screwed. Quicksilver not so much, but Toad does get screwed.
Yeah, that's what happens, right? Your home one is very easy to grab. Like Beast can grab that, just walk up, grab it, walk back. Even if he fails the roll, he's still in a safe enough position.
Yep.
On the flanks, you're always going to be double moving to grab. So there is that risk that like Quicksilver or Toad will just get pushed up into range of the enemy. And then I guess a lot of the strategy is trying to understand what flank you'll be going for. How do you support that flank? Like if I'm not going for a flank, then maybe that's a place for Voodoo to be. Because they'll grab that. Maybe I get lucky, they get pushed into me. Then Voodoo has an easy time to walk forward and possess it off them.
Yeah, right.
On the other side, then potentially Black Bolt, again with Great Refuge. If you do get pushed over the line and attacked, you can have Black Bolt either Great Refuge up and counterattack, or you can just have him double move up into bodyguard position. Like there are ways to sort of try and protect and cover.
What do you do about their home scroll? Do you try to get that one somehow?
I tend not to. I'll start loading Quicksilver up with power, but it's normally gone before he has enough power to safe grab it, which would be 2 for Speedster, then just walk, grab, walk back.
Yeah.
So my opponent has to let me have an activation before 2 activations before they grab it, which is unlikely.
Yeah.
Because first they take a flank, second they take the middle.
Yeah.
I guess with Prio, if they take a flank and not the middle, you can have Quicksilver lined up and ready to grab theirs quite safely. I tend to not get that opportunity.
Yeah, so that one's typically no-go.
Yeah, but you're absolutely right. You can line that up. Just get 2 power into Quicksilver. He can grab their home one.
Yeah. Okay.
And that means probably you've grabbed your near one and their home one. They've probably then grabbed the 2 flanks. That potentially then means their team's divided, and you can pick a flank to pressure.
Yeah.
It'd move into.
Let's wrap this hour up with you. Tell me then, what should people be on the lookout for? Like, what is really problematic for them that you need to keep in mind? Either like way other affiliations play or a certain kind of game style.
So definitely our bad matchups have changed with the release of the new cards and new characters. I think people need to keep experimenting with Max as an option, not necessarily as a leader. I think he's a really fun leader, but even in this team, he brings some tools that are incredibly useful. The range 4 Mystic Attack, the ability to re-roll attacking dice from attackers within 3. That's a nice defensive layer to your team. Ability to advance people who have activated already can really help get your team and the opponent's team into the right place. So I think he definitely has some play in the team. And with like Black Bolt's Great Refuge, you can fight when Max has got enough power, you can launch him up the table and do his spender, which is like a monstrous, is it 9 dice? And they don't get to add dice or reroll.
Yeah, wow. Okay.
Which, as a mystic attack, can absolutely delete a target.
Okay.
So I think continuing to experiment with what's in the box is really important, not just to settle on the first successful strategy that's come out of the environment change and the character change. I think like there's a lot of Inhumans people are not paying attention to just now, like Ms. Marvel.
Yeah.
Ms. Marvel's really good at decimating small characters.
Yeah. Yeah. What about playing against web warriors, though, who have an extract game plan? What is that a problem?
It used to be, but in this setup, Voodoo steals from all the goods. Web warriors are free cost, so they're very cheap to possess.
Yeah, sure.
So you can possess and take their extracts off them. Voodoo has a mystic attack, which they don't really get any rerolls into, except for leadership.
Yeah.
So they're quite weak to Voodoo as just a character. Then I found Karnak puts a lot of pressure on web warriors because they are a team he can walk into and just stand on a point.
Okay.
And if they try and fight him off, his counterattack is brutal. If they ignore him, then he's potentially setting up the double tap on his next turn.
You know who I had problems with? Again, it was Guardians twice. I played against Agent Venom, who doesn't allow me my rerolls, and that stunk.
Agent Venom is a very nasty character, and if I see him on the board, I go after him with Black Bolt as a priority.
And the problem with the defenders I played against was Doctor Strange is I kept getting hexes on all my things. And so all my spiking ability went out the window. And that was the end of that. So there's, would it be fair to say, because I want to close this, would it be fair to say that they're powerful, they have a certain kind of style that's quite unique, but they are not invincible, would you say?
Absolutely. Any strategy you do with Inhumans will have flaws. And I think what you'll see is characters who aren't experienced against Inhumans will fall for Inhuman tricks quite well, but more experienced players will hopefully have much better knowledge of how to counter the plays.
Right, exactly.
And I'm trying not to insult humans, but in a lot of ways they can be quite a trap against new or less experienced players. Because when someone steals your back point and grabs their 2 front points and then possesses someone on the side, you're like, how do I deal with this?
Yes, exactly.
What's happening?
Yeah.
And it can feel very uninteractive as well.
Yeah. I mean, I definitely think Inhumans is the kind of faction that rewards practice and thinking about, the ceiling of them is quite high, but the floor is very high as well.
Yeah. And I'd recommend people that are worried about Inhumans to play against them, get those reps, get that experience to find ways you can attack the team and exploit the weaknesses. Yeah.
Okay. Cool. We will have a copy of your roster in the show notes so everybody can reference all the details of it, the things that we didn't actually touch on. Want to also thank the Patreons who made this episode possible. Thank you so much for your support. We hope you enjoy this Patreon first episode on Inhumans. And most of all, I want to thank my good friend Andrea. We've been on some road trips together. We've been also, like I said, practicing some of the Inhumans as you're bringing yourself up to speed with them. And it was wonderful to have this chance to share our experiences.
It's been really enjoyable talking about the game with you. And it's a real pleasure to be on the show.
Oh, wonderful. I'm so glad you think so. Okay, everybody. Hope that was helpful. Definitely write us with your thoughts on our Discord. We have a whole section now of affiliations. So every affiliation has its own channel, which has gotten a lot more traffic as a result. So do come in and tag Crimson Bear in the Inhumans channel and ask all the questions to your heart's desire. With that, everybody, thanks for listening and happy gaming. Take care.